A few nights ago, I had a hard time falling asleep. Now, if you know me, you know that probably has to do with drinking too many cups of coffee in the afternoon, because that's a bad habit that I have. But a big reason was because my mind just couldn't stop. I kept thinking about different questions, different things I was worrying about, and my mind was just anxious. Now, I couldn't fall asleep, but finally, I remembered the passage that we were talking about today, which is Philippians 4, 1 through 9. I encourage you to take a minute, pause the video, and read through that real quick. But as we think about anxiety, that passage encourages us to take our anxieties to God. And so I followed the passage's advice and I started praying. And soon enough, as I took those things one at a time and said, God, I'm worried about this, please take over in that area. Eventually I fell asleep. It's funny how much easier it is to fall asleep when you're praying, right? But this passage is so encouraging. You know, when we think about our minds, because that's something that keeps coming up in this passage, is our minds. There's so many things right now that have been challenging us. I've been thinking about how in a lot of ways we have anxious minds because our minds are uncertain. You know, maybe you had a lot of plans before everything got disrupted in March. And maybe you're trying to plan right now. I know I am. I'm trying to make lots of plans, and it's hard to know what the future holds. What will it look like? Will I get to see my friends at school? Will everything get to happen? We also have overstimulated minds. You know, there's so many things. If we're stuck at home, we find ourselves on TV, on computers, on social media, and there's so many things there that overstimulate our minds. And then we have unsettled minds. You know, we're at home because there's so many things out in the world right now that are afraid, that unsettle us. So how do we handle all of these challenges in our minds? Well, our passage, I think, shows us three things that a mind following God finds peace. So I encourage you, looking at this passage, the first one is from verses 4 and 5. It tells us that a rejoicing mind reveals a heart of peace. You know, when we struggle to rejoice, it's because our heart and our mind is not set on God. But when our mind is set on God, it leads to rejoicing, when we're not caught up in all these other things. The second one is in verses 6 and 7. And here I think we see the encouragement that a reliant mind is guarded by God's peace. God's peace guards us. You know, as I was struggling to fall asleep, it's because my mind was caught up in so many other things. But when I focus and follow God, I'm guarded in peace. So the last thing I want us to take away is in verses 8 and 9. And I think it tells us here that a renewed mind finds peace in God. Paul gives us a number of things to think about instead. And when we think about those things, our mind is being renewed. And he promises us, as we reflect on those things and act on those things, that the God of peace will be with us. It's God himself who gives us this peace. So again, our encouragement from this passage is that a mind set on God finds peace. So I encourage you, set your mind on God, follow him, and see how that leads you to peace instead of fear and anxiety. Love you guys. Hope you're doing well. Hope to see you soon.